Today on DLife, Johnny White is an original thinker who strives to understand and control his diabetes in bold and creative ways. You're looking at one example right now. Jim Turner's devilish alter ego is back to crash your party and test your willpower. And we'll take a look at Dr. Ann Albright's amazing work in diabetes prevention at the Center for Disease Control. All of this, plus a low-carb mushroom bisque recipe from Chef Michelle, and Dr. Nat Strand with a look at diabetes in the animal kingdom. Dr. Johnny White is a media psychologist, lecturer, filmmaker, and adventurer who believes that learning how to tell your own story is a critical part of understanding who you are. And since Johnny has diabetes, his story includes this chapter, told in a unique and personal way.
An old friend recently said to me that he thought getting type 1 diabetes was the best thing that ever happened to me. I laughed. It's ridiculous. One of my vital organs was randomly shut down by my immune system when I was a child, and now all day, every day, I have to do what most people's pancreases do automatically. And on top of that, it can be dangerous. But it stuck with me because it somehow felt true. I just didn't say anything, and we kept on driving. Looking for an explanation, I came across a psychological study that measured happiness in people who won the lottery and people who became paraplegic. As you'd expect, after people win the lottery, they get really happy. And after people become paralyzed, they get really sad. But what's fascinating is that with time, people go back to being about as happy as they were before. How long? How long do you think? 6 months to a year. And so psychologists use this to point out that we adapt to what we've got pretty quickly because that's what we've got. Most of us don't dwell on the past. We only think about what's happening right now. But even if that explains how you might be okay having type 1 diabetes, it doesn't explain how it would make you stronger. So here's another idea. A child gets diagnosed and they start getting more attention from their parents, from doctors, from their peers, from their community. Maybe it helps them develop. But then again, we've all seen what happens when attention, pity, or praise comes too readily. Children can get spoiled by it. So what about the opposite? Replacing the function of your pancreas is, in a way, like doing extra exercise because of how well you have to treat your body, doing extra math with all the carbohydrate counting, blood glucose measuring, insulin calculations, and constantly fighting with willpower, being diligent with testing, self-monitoring, and mindful of your body's reactions. Now, these are metaphorical, but what would happen if someone did more exercise, did more math, and used more willpower? You see where I'm going. When I think of it this way, if I have to be sick with something, I'm kind of glad it's something that's good training for life, and even reminds you occasionally that life is fragile and precious. Here's one last idea. Imagine trying to create something artistic with every option in the world open to you. Where would you start? But what if you were limited to a pen and to writing a 5-word story? It becomes easier to tackle, doesn't it? Similarly, the perceived limitations of type 1 diabetes can enable action just by giving you something to push against. This has been Johnny White and Oliver Brown. Welcome to Type 1.
Johnny has an innovative website, welcometotype1.com, that's committed to the idea that having a positive outlook can make all the difference in dealing with this disease. Check it out. And coming up next, Jim Turner versus himself.
You gotta let your hair down and just kick it. Ow!
No?
Oh man, I've been looking forward to this party for a month. I am not gonna do it like last time. Yes. Last time I came to one of Alison's parties, I did not handle it very well, but I'm gonna be very smart. I was famished when I got here last time.
Oh, look at that. I am party perfect, 84. Oh, this is gonna be fun. I'm gonna take this in. I'm gonna test once an hour. Yeah, look out, party. Here I come.
Oh, we're going to a party? Yes. Oh man, Alison's parties are the best. Yes, we're just gonna let, you've had a tough week. You gotta let your hair down and just kick it. Ow, wow.
No, I've got a plan, okay? And I'm keeping to it.
Hey, come on, don't be silly. We've done this before. You always survive. Oh, except for that one time. Oh man, that was close, right? Okay, I do remember that night. Not that I want to. Now just leave me alone, all right?
Who are you talking to?
Hey!
Oh, come on. Oh boy.
Yeah, so it's gonna be really fun. There's two.
Oh, this is a barrel of pretzels. Oh my. Yeah! You got a nice background. Love them. Look at all this stuff. I better check again. Oh man. Ooh, wow! Ooh. Ooh, nice!
Okay, Jim, so we have a veggie tray over there, or there's low carb beer over there, so you're telling me.
Veggie tray, low carb beer. Oh man, look at these things, huh? God, I bet these are filled. They gotta be filled! Oh my God! I've got whipped cream! I've got whipped cream! Here, have one. Have two, have one. Stop it! I will have one low carb light beer. Come on, let's get this party started. We'll have a tequila, okay? Make it a double. No tequila. You all right, sir? Okay, why don't I just take... Yum. Thank you. Oh, boom! Ah, love you. Rah, rah, rah. Okay, I better check. That's what I better do. What are you doing? You're gonna test? You don't need to test. You don't need to test. Stop. What are you doing? I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it. Skyrockets in flight. Afternoon delight. Hey, you guys want any requests? Oh, God, I can't do this anymore. I mean, I'm not having any fun. This is no way to party. I mean, you know, I can't ignore my diabetes completely, but boy, I can relax, have a good time. I can have a little teeny piece of Alison's world-famous pastries. And if I'm gonna have a drink, I might as well drink something I want. I'll just keep it to one or two. Yeah, I'll stay smart. Test my blood sugar every now and then. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Oh boy, this sounds like a really fun time. You know, instead, how about, no, okay, but then, stop it. Oh, I was just looking at Alison's horse. Could I get a bourbon straight up, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Cheers.
Enjoy.
What's those salt and pepper ones? No, I like those. Just dropped in with a helicopter, and it was like a staged greeting, and then he went to Broadway. But I just live down the street. Yeah, I drive here all the time.
You can have all this you want, sir.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
That's a good idea. I'll have one too.
Thank you. Had a great time. Bye. Hello, yellow taxi? Yeah, I need a cab at 4414 Muto Drive. And maybe an ambulance, too. Better make it 2. Looks like you had a blast.
Coming up next, Chef Michelle Nishan in the DLife kitchen.
Hi, welcome to DLife Kitchen. I'm Michelle Nishan, and today I'm going to cook a delicious savory mushroom bisque. Now, soup is one of my favorite meals because, first of all, it's easy, but it's also a great way to get nutritious, fiber-rich foods like vegetables and beans into your diet. Homemade soups are particularly good for people living with diabetes because ready-made soups have high-carb thickeners, lots of preservatives, and really loaded with sodium, which can be a problem if you have high blood pressure, a common complication for people with diabetes. Now let's get started. Here I have a preheated pan. I'm going to put a little bit of grapeseed oil in here. And I have some onions, some leeks, and I love using onions and leeks together. They're kind of in the same family, but the wonderful thing about leeks is they add another layer of that kind of onion flavor, a little bit milder, really mellow. We're going to stir that around a little bit, get it lightly coated with this oil. So here we're just giving it a nice stir. Once we feel that the onions and the leeks are starting to soften, that's when we can add the garlic. Now, a lot of folks add garlic first and they can't understand why their soup has this bitter taste. That's often because they overcook the garlic and burn it a little bit. Now we're just going to kind of like saute this for about 1.5 minutes or two, and then it's time for us to add the mushrooms. Now here, if you take a look at this, I have some really wonderful stuff. I have shiitake mushrooms, white and brown. I have button mushrooms, cremini mushrooms, which are actually baby portobellos, and of course, the noble portobello. Now mushrooms are great because just 2 mushrooms can contain as much fiber as a medium tomato. So really great, and fiber is great for helping lower cholesterol and a variety of other things. So really good for digestive health. Now we're going to add these pre-sliced mushrooms. We're going to give it just a quick stir. Mushrooms are very high in water, so these are actually going to eventually sweat and shrink to about 1/3 this volume. It's pretty amazing. But as they shrink and get smaller, the flavor increases because we're cooking off a lot of that water. Now look at that. Look how far these mushrooms have sweated down. I'd say we probably have about 1/3 of the volume that we started with, but man, this just smells like mushroom goodness. Really great stuff. Now here I have some vegetable stock that I'm going to add, and what I like to do is add it hot. If I add the liquid hot, the mushrooms come to a simmer faster. It really takes some of the time off of the cooking. And then we're going to cook this for about another 20 minutes and really allow all of the flavors to macerate. I have some fresh thyme. If you're going to use dried spice, you want to cut it at least by 75%. So I'd use a 1/4 tablespoon if this was dried. I love fresh, full of antioxidants, and it's just more lively in flavor. We're going to just cover this and cook it for about another 20 minutes, and then we're going to puree it. We just ladle a little bit into the blender. Always put the cover on because you don't want it to splash out. Just like that. So you just puree that about 30 to 40 seconds until you have a nice smooth soup. Now look at how beautifully thickened this is without using any carbohydrates of any kind. I like to finish the soup with a little bit of cream and some fresh parsley. Now I love fresh herbs of any kind, and you can use whatever your favorite herb is. You can use sliced sage, you can use tarragon. Mushrooms are pretty hardy, so they can really take a lot of herbs, and this is all that's left to do. Just get in the bowl, grab a spoon, and really, really enjoy a bowl of good health. Look at that. A little bit of fresh parsley here to finish. And there you have it. Hearty mushroom bisque, nutritious, delicious, filling. This is just great stuff. Now, you can get this recipe and a variety of other great tips at our website, DLife.com/recipebox. I'm Michelle Nishan. Thanks for joining us in the DLife Kitchen.
I'm Dr. Nat Strand. Here at DLife, we often hear from people who have diabetic cats or dogs as pets. Fortunately, with dietary changes, regular blood testing, and in some cases, insulin injections, our four-legged friends do just fine. But did you know that many non-domestic animals get diabetes too? Monkeys, chimps, orangutans, and many of their other primate cousins have a high rate of diabetes in captivity. In a zoo, these animals may have less activity, more liberal feeding patterns, and more inbreeding, all contributing to the problem. And it's more than monkeys. There have been reported cases of diabetes in a wide variety of animals, including tropical toucan birds, antelopes, cheetahs, lemurs, and even anteaters. In some cases, these animals could provide clues to better diabetes treatments for humans. For example, marine biologists have discovered that the bottlenose dolphin has a unique ability to switch on and off the way their bodies use insulin. It's fascinating stuff. Thanks for watching.
Dr. Ann Albright's personal challenges with diabetes are a driving factor for the important work she does at the Centers for Disease Control. Here's a special encore presentation of a visit with Dr. Albright and the team that shaped the Diabetes Primary Prevention Initiative.
When I think about the time of my diagnosis and what it was like to be diagnosed, it's almost like as if the lights were turned off and, we were handed a match and we were trying to find our way with the little bit of light from that match.
Ann Albright knows as well as anyone how far diabetes treatment has come because she still remembers the world of diabetes 4 decades ago when she was 9 years old.
There were no blood glucose meters, no insulin pumps, no multiple injection therapy. We were testing our urine. It was just on the horizon of disposable syringes, so the needles were at least somewhat tolerable.
Since 2007, Albright has been in charge of the CDC's Division of Diabetes Translation, which transforms advances in diabetes research into practical and direct improvements in people's lives.
I come to work every day with an immense sense of urgency to get things accomplished and an immense sense of delivering tangibly on what we're asked to do.
Some of the trends she's seeing are disappointing.
More and more people are developing this disease, and they're developing it younger and younger. And we have got to do some things that are going to prevent that from happening. That's not the legacy we want to leave our kids.
At the same time, she's enthusiastic about advances in diabetes science, including more knowledge than ever about complications.
We now know that there's a connection between diabetes and some forms of cancer, including cervical cancer and others. There's a connection between diabetes and some forms of dementia. We're learning now that that dementia is not the same as what we see in Alzheimer's, which is a different kind of pathology, these amyloid deposits in the brain. In diabetes, it seems to be more of a vascular abnormality. And so I'm keeping a close eye on those kinds of things.
It's too soon to know how this latest research will translate into improved treatment of diabetes, but clearly past successes have made a difference in people's lives.
Take the example of eye exams. You know that if you get those and you follow up on what's found, you continue to monitor that, those are going to result in a 50 to 60% reduction in blindness. I mean, that's huge. Boy, as a researcher, I'd take those odds to the bank any day. In the area of foot exams, we know that if you get your feet examined, you act upon those results and you take action, that it's anywhere from a 45 to 85% reduction in losing a limb.
Albright's CDC team is doing all it can to educate Americans about how they can help themselves, because many people with diabetes just don't know all they should.
I think it's important to recognize that only about 40% of all people ever get to see a diabetes educator or have formal diabetes education. So the National Diabetes Education Program really does a wonderful service for people with diabetes.
Chris Ernst heads the department's Diabetes Primary Prevention Initiative. She's a diabetes educator and a registered nurse and has lived with diabetes since 1959.
Having diabetes gives me a lot of insight that I can inform people about. And I understand what it's like to live with diabetes.
In fact, go around the conference room, and that sort of personal insight is everywhere. You don't have to have diabetes to do effective work in this agency, but a number of the staffers do.
We gravitate towards diabetes because we have an interest in diabetes, and I think we're all committed to improving the lives of people with diabetes.
And they're grateful that the person at the top shares this journey with them.
She's speaking from experience. This is not secondhand information. This is information coming from the source. And to see the example that she could really put out as far as living with diabetes, looking normal. I mean, if she didn't tell you, you wouldn't know.
Ann Albright's goal for herself and for the millions with diabetes whose lives she takes so personally is a rich life, and something else that many could not achieve in the past, a long one.
It's getting more common that you can have 50, 60, 70 years of living successfully with diabetes. I think we still don't have, certainly millions of people who have experienced that, but we're on our way there.
Every time she tests her own blood glucose, she keeps that firmly in mind.
Yes, it is about testing your blood sugar and it's about getting those results, but really and truly it's about what is this going to allow me to do for the long term. So sometimes I think about when I'm tired of testing or this is getting kind of old, that it's really what I remind myself of is what are the things I love to do in life. And it's important for everybody, I think, to think about that think about the things you love to do, and by taking good care of yourself and by doing all that you can to get on top of your diabetes, it's going to let you have the greatest opportunity to do those things that you love for the greatest period of time.
We'll be right back with more DLife. That does it for this edition of DLife, but just because we're leaving your television screen doesn't mean we're gone. You can find us on your computer or smartphone anytime. Just visit DLife.com or pull up the DLife mobile app. You can watch hundreds of past DLife segments or grab a recipe for dinner. And be sure to visit us on Facebook and Twitter for all the latest DLife news. Remember, tomorrow is a new Diabetes Day. We'll see you next time.